Hello and welcome to the Old Man Orange Podcast. I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
And I'm Ryan Dunnigan.
And I see that Ryan here has got a brand new haircut. He shaved his beard. He actually shaved the beard last time, but thought I'd point this out there. But I don't know what it is. It's like, we're talking about an anime movie right now, but you remind me of like one of those guys. It's like, it wouldn't be like maybe the main character in an anime, but he would be like the third guy, like at school hanging out, probably the tough guy standing in the corner there, be like, yo, I protect the main guy. You know, I don't know why. I'm almost thinking of Yu Yu Hakusho. What the hell's that dude's name with like
Yubari or some shit? I don't remember.
Yeah.
Like the guy who's just like, yeah.
I hate to sort of say it, the guy who acts really tough and so on like that, but then he kind of gets beat by like the main character right off the bat, but then he becomes his buddy later on.
I look like that? All right, well, I guess it's kind of like, it does make my forehead look a lot bigger when it's like this. I will say, depending on how it is, because like right now it's kind of lower, but like the way they cut it, it kind of gave me enough length when I woke up this morning. It was kind of sticking up and almost looked kind of like a crew cut. And I looked like I was 3 years away from like, what do you mean you're quitting the mill? God damn it. You know, like, you know, hey, Barbara, our son has dreams. Did you hear this shit? Like I looked kind of like, I looked like I was 3 years away from that, but I mean, who knows?
Just, you know, the work, you know, the work in life.
Yeah, I had dreams once. Then you came along.
Once? I was 4. My dad saw that I had dreams. He walked over to the television set, ripped the cord out of the wall, picked the TV set, threw it out the window, and said, "Not in this house. We don't want you having any outside thoughts."
No communism in this house.
I was watching the Nixon election when that happened. To this day, I'm not too sure what my dad meant by that.
Yeah. No. Son, in the case in the future you hear this, I'm not talking about you. This is a fictional son and a fictional character, just to clarify, you know.
Yeah, once AI just pieces all our Old Man Orange stuff together in some ginormous collage of transcript and, you know, and then Skynet's like, you know, this was part of the reason why we decided to take on over.
Yeah.
Why Skynet talks like it's a 1940s actor? I'm not too sure. But.
Like it's like the man inside the computer is like, you know, like looks like fucking like Humphrey Bogart, like mixing like a Tom Collins or start stirring around a Tom Collins or some shit like that.
Yeah, you think it'd at least sound like Hal for some reason, like, you know, now Hal's a little too far future.
Yeah. Okay, now I just gotta go transatlantic with it. No, like well, even I didn't even think about the dopey, because that's the only one I could think of as far as I know what you mean, that archetype, like basically the Knuckles archetype. That's the best way to say it. You're the first rival, and then after that, then you just become the best friend after a while. You know, I see what you mean. I know the archetype you're talking about, but at the same time, like that did not cross my mind when I got this, but now can't unsee it. So there we go.
So there that is, and well, that's okay. That's fitting because we decided to do an anime, one that I technically have never seen, and I've always wanted to. And I know Ryan has talked about it back in the day, and of course I've heard other people talk about it too, because it kind of fits in that almost like prestigious. You know, almost maybe top 10 of the old school anime movies, you know, like that you kind of must see, that fits under like Ghost in the Shell and Akira and things of that nature. But we're going with Ninja Scroll right here, 1993, and then I know it was brought to the U.S. in 98 or whatever. And I almost want to say that you were the one that said this was kind of like you had one of those jerk-off Johnny friends back in the day, the kid who literally took the bare mattress and, you know, rode it down the fucking stairs at his grandma's house.
He lived across the street from him, actually, but there's two of them.
So there's two of them.
It was different. It was different levels. There was one that was like, he was basically like Kenny, more or less. Mm-hmm. And he lived at his grandma's house. And yeah, just wrote, the grandma didn't care. House smelled like cigarettes all the time. Grandma watched soap operas all the time. She was cool. And then there was the friend across the street, directly across the street. And he was like 3 or 4 years older. But when you're like 10, that is such a huge difference. Mm-hmm. And he was the one that like, hey, you like, do you like anime? Well, I've seen Mulan. Well, this is way more fucked up than Mulan, let me tell you, you know, so.
Well, literally in watching this is like with 100% watching it, I was like, oh, this is the movie that somebody would come to school and tell you all about it. And you'd be like, that's not real. No way. Like, it literally has all those kinds of scenes in there. Be like, dude, you won't believe what I saw in animation. You know, this makes heavy metal seem soft, you know?
He's the friend that would say, like, oh, yeah, in, like, Gundam Wing, Endless Waltz, Rihanna gets fucking raped out of nowhere. I'm like, whoa, what the fuck? Like, yeah, they go fucking hardcore in that. Like, oh, shit. Okay, well, I'm glad they edited that out for Toonami, you know? But it's like, but then you, like, see this, and this is the movie that, oh, this is the movie that happens in. Okay.
Yeah, this is the movie, and there's like a handful of moments in there, you know, where it's just like, oh shit, oh, you know, I know, you know, by nowadays you wouldn't think much of it, but I'm like, I try to picture it like if I got this copy in '98 or whatever, you know, circulating around school on VHS, you know, when you were just kind of getting into anime, and you've probably only seen 10 different versions by this point, you know, and this happens to be one of them, because this does kind of remind me of when I think back to when you'd go to like the rental store back in the day, and I used to always say there was almost like a 3x4 rack of anime that was just like in the corner. It was very small. There wasn't a whole lot of choices. And I remember, you know, you would see the Ghost in the Shell cover. That always would stand out to me as a kid, because you just look at that, it just looks about like, you know, like this is, you know, is dolt as fuck. Like, hardcore, look, there's a naked robot lady on the cover. Like, well, you know, and then they just, it's not behind the beaded door room. No, it's just out in public. Like, what is this? You know? And of course, you know, there'd be Akira would be there. They'd have those old Dragon Ball Z, the Pioneer VHSs, and I feel like something like Ninja Scroll would probably be somewhere in that section. Though this is one of those ones.
Magic 66, something like that.
Yeah, this is still one of those ones that would be like, I could see this like not also being like one of those ones be like, it's kind of banned from an American rental store, because you could just see some kid renting this and then their parents seeing this on the background, and little Tommy's fucking 10 years old, you know.
This isn't Mulan. Like the dad in the room. Yeah, no, like that was their only frame of reference. No, the thing about this movie is I feel like a lot of times, maybe I'm desensitized to it, but a lot of times in like anime, when there's like violence in anime, I don't really feel it. I think especially just because it's like a blood splat. That's all it is. There's the ones that actually do get pretty gnarly. I haven't seen much of it, but there's like Blood C Plus or whatever it was, the vampire one that was on, I remember it was on Adult Swim, and that one got surprisingly gory. But you know, they're out there. You could find the ones where it actually gets really gory, but they're not as common as I think of just like, oh, it's rated R, but there's just a blood splatter. That's all it is. Okay, cool, whatever. This one, I'm like, on every level, this is that thing of like, wait till he's at least like 15 or 16, you know, like every level. This is like, yeah, I don't like, you know, if you want to be like the cool uncle, like, okay, I'll show you a little bit of this, like, you know, R-rated movie. You could probably handle something like a Die Hard or something like, you know, something like, or like Terminator 2, whatever, you know.
Yeah, or even like Heavy Metal 2000 or something like that.
Maybe that, yeah. But then you get to this, like, no, you're not ready. You're not ready, you know?
Well, like when the words NC-17 pop up, this actually kind of feels like it fits the void of that. Like I get it. Like if this movie got an NC-17, you'd be like, yeah, I understand.
This movie, apparently, I didn't know this. I watched one little video leading up to it, but this movie apparently did get a very limited theatrical release right when it came to the States. Probably wasn't rated, but it got a very limited release, and then it actually bombed in Japan, but it's got a second life on like VHS sales in America.
Yeah, because I always saw something like that too, is that's where it was one of those very transitional ones of like, hey, animation is for adults. And once again, I mentioned like Akira and Ghost in the Shell and things like Appleseed and so on like that, where, you know, they probably have, because I feel like in that Appleseed, like especially the American dub, they're like, oh, we can swear in this? Well, fuck it. Like, let's find places to swear all the time in this movie. Like, it doesn't have to make sense. You know, if I can get shit, fuck, all this kind of stuff thrown in there, we're doing it. This is adult animation. Hell yeah.
Like every time they start to get amped, Randy Man, Macho Savage just bust in through the door. Yeah.
Exactly one of those ones. You know, I saw something funny though when it was released in England. they're like, we have to censor 50 seconds out of this thing and whatnot. And at first they're like, well, we're going to cut back on that attempted rape scene, and then the other thing that always bothers us because we're English is cut out those ninja stars. God forbid you show a ninja star there. You guys don't forget the great ninja disaster of 1978 with like that's.
I'm wondering why like ninjas are like so outlawed in like England. Like, was there just like one guy like running around with like shurikens and nunchucks going around? Like,
well, yeah, because that's the one I remember. Like when I learned that.
What?
Yeah, that almost what it feels like, and I keep wanting to research it because I remember that from Ninja Turtles, because like they can't even say the word ninja. So Ninja Turtles in the UK, and I don't think it's like even the rest of Europe. It's just the UK. It's literally one of those ones where you got Germany. It's like Germany's like no violence, no nothing. We don't want to set anybody off. Oh, ninjas, whatever. It's not a big fucking deal. You know what I mean? But UK is like whoa. We can't have any fucking ninjas running around and so on like that. So the Ninja Turtles is literally called Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles, and they even edit fucking. They have to edit out like all of Mikey's scenes because for some reason nunchucks is like the worst of all the weapons. I don't know why that is. So bad that like if you watch the original Ninja Turtles show and you kind of wonder like why in the last 3 or 4 seasons does Michelangelo start just using a yo-yo instead? And the whole reason because of that was because of England. It's the strangest thing. They literally had they're just like, you know what? It's just easier. Just just give them a yo-yo instead. Then UK's not bitching about having to edit out the nunchucks. The nunchucks of all weapons, you know what I mean?
These crumpet-eating fucks coming in here trying to take away our nunchucks. God damn it! You lost the war. You lost the revolution. All right, what can we tell you?
Yeah, it almost makes it feel like when the Germans were doing their bombing raids, they actually weren't dropping bombs. They were dropping ninjas of nunchucks, and they were running up, swinging, slapping people in the fucking nuts. Like, have you ever been hit in the nuts by a nunchuck? It's not fun. It's one thing if you hit yourself with it, but when someone else just comes up to you, fucking hits you, and then fucking jumps in a Zeppelin and flies home.
Or just like Japanese like send like, oh, we'll send some of our own weapons too, and they just like, here, just drop these on them. They're just a bunch of nunchucks, just this like cluster bombs, like.
Yeah, it's the weirdest thing, but that made me laugh. It's like a Ninja Scroll. It's like, you know what? There's 2 things in here that are really bad, and the second one's way worse. The fucking ninja stars. I don't want to see any of that there.
The name. First off, the name. We just call it Scroll. Hero Scroll. Can we call it Hero Scroll?
Yeah, can we call it Hero Scroll? He's pretty much he's like a hero, sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I've always it'd be an interesting one because like, okay, what about Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter and all that stuff? Like that's still got to be like a tough sell. There's always got to be some British guy at the board like, flipping through like, oh, this character, yeah. Yes, I don't think this is good for the youth. Yeah, so too Japanese. Take him out. Bruce Lee. No, none of these scenes here. Yes.
Well, you did have. Well, I'm trying to think of like how many martial arts inspired British movies have come out, and I'm having trouble thinking of it. I'm sure they're out there.
There's 007 movies that have it in there. I mean,
there's Unleashed takes place in England, but I don't know if it's a British-made film. But whatever.
Well, right across the fucking little channel, fucking France loves to do martial arts movies. Maybe that's their fear.
It could have been France. It could have been a French. It was a French director, so maybe it was a French film. So who knows? Yeah.
They're like, next thing you know, France gets a hold of nunchucks and parkour combined, and they're going to invade everywhere in Europe.
They'll just be like parkouring over borders. Yeah.
Which the funny thing is, whenever I think about the nunchucks, because the nunchucks also have, in California, they've always had like a weird, like, it's not like you're going to be like thrown in the slammer if you have nunchucks, but you're not technically supposed to sell them or anything like that. But it's always that one's like, let's be honest, out of all the weapons out there, like, if somebody's got nunchucks, they got to be one, highly skilled and highly disciplined, which means they're probably not going around robbing places with said nunchucks. You know what I mean? It's, but you can go down to a Big Five and go buy a shotgun, literally load it up right there in the store like you're fucking Steve McQueen in The Getaway, and go walk down the street and go rob whatever you want.
If you could successfully like rob a liquor store with a pair of nunchucks, I'm going to say you probably, whatever you want, you can do. I'm just going to say that, like, I think that they just clearly want it more. You know, if you're able to pull off in a store with nunchucks, they just want it more. And if you can't pull it off, then hey, you rolled the dice and you lost. Fuck you. But if you can, then should you really like? All right, the cops can try to arrest him, but he just robbed his store with nunchucks. Can you really pull it? You know, I think it's one of those things like it's kind of a fuck around and find out kind of thing. Most people can't, but if you could pull it off, like, hey, you know, what can we do?
I know. I think you should get like a somewhat free pass for that, you know.
Yeah. If you can. Yeah, if you come swinging in and you fuck up, then all bets off. But
yeah, that's it. You know what I mean? Like the nunchucks are the deciding factor, I think. You know,
cops come in, they start firing. He's all like deflecting the bullets with the fucking nunchucks. Like, all right, great, take the bullet, right? Take the bullet. All right, we don't care. Andy Yeager, go ahead, take it. We don't fucking bullet that way.
Yeah. So but yeah, Ninja Scrolls. So other than it's a little bit of a controversy it's got in England, it kind of came to the U.S. and really kind of came in a an uncensored way back in the day. And I think it was brought to you by literally the company that says manga. Like, so you would see that like on the previews and stuff. I know Street Fighter 2, the animated movies under that same one too. Which I will say, this animation in here actually. Street Fighter 2, the animated movie, literally has a very similar look to this movie. So I feel like it was definitely heavily inspired, and I almost even kind of wondered if some of the same animators were on that.
This guy, I don't remember his name, but a lot of his projects, he either he is a character designer himself, or he likes bringing that same character designer on to work with him at a lot of places. He did this. He did D the Vampire Hunter, or D
Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust.
Yeah, he did the second one.
Okay, yeah.
He did like that the Samurai simulation short in Animatrix. Mm-hmm. He did a Highlander anime, which I remember reading about, but I totally forgot about it. I remember when it was on its way of coming out, like a Highlander anime. Oh, that's by the guy who did Ninja Scroll. Like, oh, that's cool. Then I just forgot to check back up on it. There's another one. He also did another big like manga one. He did Wicked City, which I've never seen. So, but as far as like this Vampire Hunter D, the Animatrix, and the Highlander thing, they all have very similar character designs. Either he himself is a character designer, or he likes bringing that team with him.
Yeah, and so that dude is Yoshiaki Kawajiri. I see right there. But I'm actually really, once you said that Highlander one and it's this dude, I'm actually pretty excited about that because, I've watched all those. I have that Highlander 5-pack of like, all the movies and so on. I've always enjoyed them. And the fact, I feel this guy would do a really good job with that because it is one of those ones, like just like the whole look and feel and the anime. And I really will say that's almost like the best part of it is it's the animation is almost what really sells this. It's more of an art film than it is maybe like, like something where you're like, man, that story's fucking awesome. The story's cool, but like, I feel like you're just watching like, holy crap, that animation looks good.
It's really the thing that's so interesting about it. And I'm going to say, I like my Mad Max Fury Road way more, but it's kind of like Mad Max Fury Road in a way of like, it's a very simple story, very simple A to B story, very simple. But the level of artistry that goes into it is really the thing that kind of has you in awe about it. And I think I saw it when I was younger and I liked it. I thought it was really good. And then this is probably the first time I've seen the movie in 20 years. And then, like looking back on say the thing that's kind of interesting about it is, we talked before about like, when you go out and buy those martial arts movie packs and you would get like, 8 martial arts movies for like $10. And then they're like, okay, here's 1 or 2 good Bruce Lee movies. Here's a couple like little gems. And then here's like the last half is straight shit. And in those, we would talk about like if there's a ninja one or anime or samurai one or anime one, not anime one, but like a ninja one or samurai one or something like that. At some point, if there's a lady alone in the woods, like, oh, this shit's not going to go good. And this is almost basically one of those movies, but they have like the most top-notch animation and action and team on it. So it's kind of like one of those very like grindhouse kind of ninja stories, but the animation is top tier.
Yeah, that 100% kind of describes it, because it did make me feel, or I felt a lot like those 70s samurai movies where they are really hardcore and really violent and so on like that, and nothing good happens to certain characters and so on. It's like that, but then you throw in kind of that mystical, like monsters and demons and Japanese kind of mythology type stuff in there along the way. So you have a lot of cool, setups of characters and so on like that. And yeah, just the whole look and feel and design of it and the characters, it almost has that video game feel where like there's like different bosses and so on like that, and they're well designed, almost like a Metal Gear like character and whatnot. And even in this thing, even though the story's kind of simple, it's like all those characters almost like stand out quite a bit.
It's also something interesting because each one of them, it is very simple. Like these three people come together. We got to get here to there. And in the meantime, we got to take down these eight assassins that are on our tail the whole time. And they're pretty close together. There's very little breathing room between them. I mean, never feels rushed. And there's little moments of character development here and there, but it is mostly, the animation is really the star of the show. The animation and the action. Mm-hmm. And even it's never really just a simple little, few swipes, a few stabs, and they win. Even the way the first one goes down, you think you see the rock monster in the trailer, or that was also in one of the, because manga would always have they play some techno song, they show a scissor reel of all their stuff, and they show for when they came across Ninja Scroll, they would show the rock monster a lot, swinging his blade and all that, and that's going to be oh, that guy's got to be a big character in the thing. He's the first one. He's the first one.
Yeah, he's literally the first boss, and he's just this guy who literally, he's got the big old spinning sword that he's throwing around and whatnot like that, and of course he steals the main ninja girl right off the bat and be like, oh, I almost gonna rape her right here, rock monster, and then you get our main character Jubei just sitting there, and he's like, hey, buddy, can't you see? I'm busy here. He's like, oh, don't mind me. I'm just trying to find my directions. He's like, oh, directions? Well, I'll give you fucking directions. You know what I mean? Don't you come in here? Don't you see what I'm doing? That's just my time. My prize. Edo period.
Well,
I'm a giant fucking rock thing. You know what I mean? Yeah, I'm kind of like the Thing, but just the evil dick version of him.
Just a little bit more rapier.
Yeah.
He actually looks kind of like Korg, really, when you think about it.
Yeah, he definitely does.
But the thing about it, though, is because initially, before that happens, they show Jubei. We get an idea of him. He's just this ninja for hire, but he works dirt cheap. And just the first fight, it lets you kind of know you're in for some something a little random, because he's attacked by three guys. He handles them with ease. One guy is a little dwarf dude in a wooden steampunk suit with a shotgun or something coming out of the hand, and he takes that guy out. And that guy's just there in his underwear, so it's immediately showing you well, what this is. All right, this is going to be some wacky shit, but it can still be some fun shit too, though.
Yeah, no. It does start off like that, where you're just oh, okay, it's not just traditional samurai stuff. There's some other things going on here, and so on. And yeah, that little fight that they got on the bridge there and whatnot, it starts off just badass. You're like, yeah, are you in or you out? Look at the violence. Look at those arms getting chopped off. You know what I mean?
And then they get across the whole thing of there's some group that's making their way, spreading a plague around and trying to overthrow Japan or something to that effect. And then from there, I just want to say it doesn't bother me, but I thought it was just kind of funny. When they show the Ninja Clan coming in, all right, we got to defend our lord. We got to do this. We got to do that. They show the shortest, fattest, stockiest ninja, and he can still do the silent little, little swoosh jump, Congrats. Nice work, man. Nice work. I didn't really think, because you see that guy. What the fuck's that guy? Oh, he's got it. Okay, cool. As long as you got that ninja training, no matter what your build, you can still do little, just disappear, gracefully, crouching tiger, hidden dragon up into the trees,
Yeah, exactly. And that's right. Yeah, you do see that there's this plague, and it's like taking
He's
out
the
all
first to
these little
die.
villages.
That guy.
Yeah, he first to die, of course. But he's there. And then, what was I saying? There's that plague going on that doesn't seem to bother our main characters one bit. Everybody else is like, oh, the plague is just going on here. I don't know, unless they poison the water well and all kinds of things. And little Hoshi over there is passed away and dead, and it was his second birthday, but that's I guess that's it. He can't play with his little
Danito period.
whatever the heck that little like spinning thing is. It's got the two balls on it that makes the little drum sound. Huh?
That was the Edo period Game Boy. That's what that was.
Yeah, that's what it was. It was made by Nintendo as well.
One of their first products. Well, no,
he almost grew up in time to have his Hanafuda set.
I don't think that they had I don't think they go into it, but I think that almost the plague might be coming from the snake lady. They never flat out say that, but just thinking about it, because I think they're poisoning stuff, because it's not. I think it's like an artificial plague, something they're spreading around. So
yeah.
If I had to guess, I think it's like the snake ladies having venom go into their water source. That's my guess. I might be totally wrong, but they never really explain how the plague gets there. It's just the Eight Devils are pushing the plague along. And then after Jubei, the main character, basically, because that girl, this ninja clan, who's basically a venom tester. She basically tastes venom and tests poisons to make sure if things are safe or whatever. She's done this so much that she's now, her body is poisoned. She's basically like poison ivy. So if you kiss her or you have sex with her, you're basically going to die. We don't know that yet, but there's a few things that kind of lead into it. And basically once her team totally gets wiped out by the big rock monster, the one guy, the leader, goes horribly. He gets his arms ripped off and then blood pouring down the mouth of the monster, from the arms. Yeah. And then later he takes the girl and he attempts and he actually gets kind of far for a minute, but then that's when Jubei comes in, like, hey, what you doing? And then from there they both escape, and the rock monster in the middle of the fight actually ends up getting weak and ends up his rock starts cracking and all that. And he throws his he just starts to get weak and his rocks start to crack around him. And then when he goes to catch his spinny blade, it's gone back to him and it goes into his head, and the level of gore goes into his head, then he goes down and his head just slides down, and just such good animation. So it's those kind of shots, those kind of moments,
Yeah, no, you get a lot of those, that he just literally falls apart, and you think it's just oh, Jubei's just kind of winning here and whatnot like that. And I don't think it's till later. There's when there's this old dude that shows up who's kind of just hey, I'm the old man. Let me tell you the secrets of the world, young boy. I was once a ninja just like you. I still got my powers a little bit, even though I might only be 2'5", but that's okay.
Master Roshi, more or less, yeah.
Yeah, kind of like Master Roshi, just, maybe a little bit more almost well, he's there, but he's almost following them around. It's almost like Jubei doesn't really care, but he's the one that kind of explains, yo, it wasn't necessarily you that did that. He's like, it wasn't just you. It's it's the woman. She's got the poison in her, you see? She's been taste testing it forever, so her body is literally poisoned now, Stay away from her because she could kill you.
I just think it's funny, even a Japanese thing, because we associate the old man voice, well, hello there, we just kind of associate the old man voice with kind of a faint southern twang. So even in Japan, of course, this old Japanese ninja spy would have a faint southern twang to his voice, of course,
Why not?
But at the same time, I don't remember his name, but the old man who basically at some point he poisons Jubei. Basically, he's you're really talented. I need your help. So he hits him with a poison dart, and basically recruits him. You got several days to help me track these guys down, and if you don't help me, you will die of poison. So, and then from there, I even kind of think I think it's interesting about him is because the old man, even though he's kind of a little, I said the Roshi thing. I mean, he just go Japanese old Roshi, but I just mean just kind of just that kind of creepy old man kind of vibe, because he has a few of those moments here and there, not too many, but a few here and there. But they get across that he's just hey, it's I'm not really evil, but I'm not really good. I'm just here to get a job done. I've been doing it for a while. And I'm good at doing it. You know, like just that kind of attitude he has towards everything, very nonchalant. Like, yeah, I used you, but job's gonna get done because I'm using you, so it is what it is.
Yeah, one of those things, you know. And well, I even know that like there's another weird thing. This kind of goes just for like historical sense or whatnot, but like there's also that thing that there is a certain time period where like ninjas aren't looked upon fondly. I think in the samurai days, especially, it's like the ninjas wasn't like a good thing. Like, you know, and they always say it's like the U.S. interpreted it like, oh, fucking ninjas, that's fucking badass. Like, I don't know, why don't you guys just put those on like fucking like your flag or something like that? That's the fucking coolest thing ever. You know, and it's like back then, it's like, whoa, like that was a ninja was a cheapskate like warrior. That wasn't honorable like a samurai. You know what I mean? Fucking stab somebody in the back, you know, and then kick them in the balls and you know use those dirty tactics. You know, that's not what a samurai does.
Well, I think with enough time and separation from it, I think people are able to look back on that and still just enjoy just at least the ninja aesthetic, because a lot of aspects of ninjas, a lot of them like were at a point where I saw that. I don't remember where I saw this, but something to the point of like a lot of them weren't documented, and a lot of the things we see in movies and shows is more of just like rumors and stories from the time. So, and it was much more of just kind of like, a lot of times they were kind of like, you know, because like samurai, if you're a samurai, you were like the head. You were like one of the most important people in the town, aside from the lord you served. So of course it'd be like, you know, there's the nobleman who has a sword, and here's some dirty fucking pig farmer who's like got like shurikens and, you know, like hiding like in pig shit or whatever, you know. So it's like the idea of like a lot of them you didn't know who ninjas were. So the idea is like, you must face me with honor. I'm like, motherfucker, you got an army behind you. Get fucked. Like, it's one of those things when I was younger, I'd be like, yeah, samurais have honor, samurais have code. Depending on the story, if we're like some guy like, you must face me with honor. How many of you got? Yeah, fuck you. No. You know?
No. I need to use my, you know, tactics to get by on this, you know, my guerrilla warfare in a sense. Like, that's not going to work, you know.
Basically just guerrilla fighters, more or less what they were. They were just like, they make, because they weren't so like, maybe, I mean, I don't know all the details. I think there were definitely, there's probably just a couple like, dude, here's the Japanese equivalent to a ski mask. Here's this. We'll like run in there. We'll try to, you know, like knife them real quick and then get the fuck out. And it's probably just very like sloppy. But then like in media, it's just like these well-trained, you know, super ninjas. And I'm sure a few of them existed, but you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, they probably were kind of like, yeah, just like, you know, almost like a town's like secret militia type thing, you know what I mean? That like lived up on the hill and whatnot like that and so on. But no, I think that it's just like in general, it's like one of those ones that, yeah, no matter what, the whole ninja, you know, even if it's all mysterious and kind of not as well known, is still such a cool concept and so on like that. I like the fact that they've just like ran with that as time went on, as I think that there was a period of time where, you know, you wouldn't have had that even in like Japanese cinema or something like that. They would have been like, no, you know, I'm not backing up these ninjas, you know what I mean? Like, you know, and then they kind of like realized like, oh, no, ninjas sell. People want to go to ninja school. You know what I mean?
Just not in England.
Naruto is going to be. Yeah, not in England, though. That's the only place. Well, I think here's the thing. I think the English people love ninjas. I just think there's just some, you know, old man in fucking government. Yeah, just the queen. Like, oh, yeah, that's probably what it was. It's like, you know, the queen's just like, I don't want a bunch of dirty people in rags running around like, what are you talking about? Face covered, you know what I mean? Just going off on these. It's like, oh, I saw a ninja in town the other day and I was so offended.
You see the ninja, he's just buying like a loaf of bread. That's all he's doing. Just, oh. He's not doing nothing. Then she just screams like, ninja! He just like backflips like down the alley, jumps up the side.
Exactly, bounces up the wall and everything like that. Like fucking wall kicks up. Everybody else didn't see it. She's like, did you see the ninja? Like, what ninja? There was a ninja here. Oh, she's going for that ninja thing again. Of course, the queen's seeing random ninjas everywhere.
Ninjas fucking with her all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, back to Ninja Scroll, and we're on our journey here. We got sort of our anime trio in a sense is built in here, where you got Junpei, who's kind of our young reckless guy, and then you have the old man who plays the wiser character, I guess you would sort of say, and then you got the female ninja who's pretty much the woman character of it. But it makes for a good like parallel of all these characters that have to sort of work together and get through these whatever it is. Is it eight? 8 guys?
It's 8 of them. Yeah.
8 of them, yeah.
And each one of them is very different. I mean, I don't think there's much point in just going, and then they bump into this guy, and then they bump into this guy, and then they get shot for a second, but then they get fixed, and then they bump into this guy. You know, it is just kind of like a general A to B of like just a lot of action back to back. And I think that like a lot of the, like, none of the character designs are bad. They're all at least interesting. I do think, though, it's interesting. One of the things that I think is most interesting, the one that does not have like has the least amount of a gimmick, who is like the most toned down, is like the blind dude, and he is like gives them the most trouble, other than maybe the last fight.
Yeah, that's true. The blind guy definitely is the one that they have the hardest time with.
Because all the freaks and monsters, some of them give him a lot of trouble, some of them not so much. But the blind dude, he's just a blind dude, and he looks like just a normal samurai, and he just gives him the most trouble. At one point, he's like, "You'll be blind like me. See, reflection of my sword." You know, like, oh fuck. But then like they get by that, you know. Like I think the one that might give him the least amount of trouble might be the Snake Lady, you know. But like the Snake Lady or the Bee Man, one of those two.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about the Bee-Man one. The Snake Lady one, too, when she kind of infects people with things, it kind of reminds me of, like, I saw where Princess Mononoke took, like, that kind of animation style. Because, you know, all, like, the warthogs and things like that get infected, and they got, like, the tentacles all shooting out and everything like that. She has a lot of those things where people get infected, then they burst open, and all these, like, you know, vines start shooting out everywhere and
all
so
the snakes,
on. Like
yeah.
Yeah, snakes and all that stuff. And she's got kind of an interesting like design too, where like the snakes come out of her tattoos and everything.
Well, that's also like that's one of those things you've seen that in a couple of other things. So I remember when I saw like not a good movie, but when I saw Elektra, I'm like, oh, you motherfuckers, you stole that from like Ninja Scroll, because the one guy had all the tattoos that came to life. So I'm like,
oh, that's right.
Yeah. So there's that lady. Then there was I thought, even though he was like, I don't like him character wise, but I just thought it was an interesting design. He'd be like almost kind of like you said, or I think you said this, like Metal Gear Solid kind of like villains, like the Beehive guy. Like I definitely was thinking like the Pain from Metal Gear 3, even though this came out before then.
Yeah, exactly. But that's what I mean. Is like you see where a lot of things are like I feel like are quite inspired from this. You know, even though I know that Mortal Kombat technically is before this, and realistically, probably for an American would not be necessarily inspired right off the bat, but I feel by the time Mortal Kombat 2 and 3 comes by, I do feel like I'm like, you could see where it might be a little bit more inspired, or you know, from some of this stuff here too, even.
Well, Mortal Kombat's a lot more inspired by like you're more of a Mortal Kombat fan than me, but they're a lot more inspired by like martial arts cinema. So I imagine anything martial arts related, they'd probably try and get their hands on, like whether it be animated or live action, they try to get their hands on, like, dude, this gives us some fucking ideas. Look at that fucking fatality. Yeah,
no, I that's what I mean. As I definitely feel like I'm like, I could see that, because yeah, it's, you know, a lot of Shaw's Brothers type movies, and then of course like a lot of the ninja movies of the 80s and so on like that, with Sho Kazugi and all that kind of stuff.
I think my favorite of the Deadly Eight, or the Eight Devils, is probably, I already said this, but probably like the blind guy. Just because I don't know, the guy he sort of reminded me of Jin from Samurai Champloo.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's actually true. He does kind of have that sort of vibe to it. Even Junpei almost reminds me of the main character of Samurai Champloo. Mugen, yeah. And I feel that show definitely, you know, gets a lot of inspiration from this as well, too.
Well, even Mugen is a little bit more of like just some dirty vagrant, where Jubei is just more of a guy going from place to place, but at least the way he looks and kind of his lax attitude, that kind of thing. But even the whole part where like I'm just thinking back on like some of the kills this movie has, like whenever there was like a kill that was relatively like not violent, it would almost kind of catch you off guard. Like when like the snake lady dies. I mean, granted, it was a painful death, but it wasn't violent. She's got like electrocuted with the with the electric wire, you know, and like, oh, that wasn't super gory. Oh, okay, you know. So like whenever that would happen, it would like almost like throw you off that it wasn't like crazy violent. Like I was not that it bothered me. It was just like, oh, I was okay. You got off easy, I guess.
Yeah, I think the thing is like you put those like variation deaths in there too, where it's like okay, and then it kind of like you don't get so like almost like overburdened with like the hardcore like gore and violence that like when you do see it, like oh there we go, that's there it is, you know, she just gets electrocuted here, why not?
Oh, there's even like I guess this is a very similar character to someone in Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust, but there is the Shadow guy who he's somebody that kind of he's actually the second to last guy. I forgot because he kind of comes back and forth a few times because they have trouble with him, and that guy like so. I mean, here's the thing. I understand. I'm not one of those people who's like, I'm offended. You must make this movie by my standards by today in 2025. But like, I am a little bit of kind of like the part where he's like, I got the girl and I'm going to finger her. like, all right, fucking get it. This already happened earlier in the movie. We don't got to do it twice. My one, I think there's a thing like he was trying to control her. I guess that's where you can control her or something, or look into her. But I was just kind of like, shouldn't he be dead? Because that happened with the first dude. With the rock man, but maybe I overlooked something, or maybe he's not human.
I think he was trying to get poison out of her, and they were just doing a very grindhouse way to get it out of her.
Oh,
because that's when I'm like, oh, that's what they're doing there, yeah, you know, and it's just a very like hardcore way to go about it. Be like, we're gonna extract some liquid out of her, you know what I mean? Like one of those ones. And I think that was what it was because I think everybody kind of realizes like, oh, she is like the poison lady and whatnot like that, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. Okay, I forgot about that. I thought that for me, I forgot about that for me. I thought I was just kind of like, oh, well, I'm bored.
Just there for there, yeah. Like I gotta tie her legs up, whatever. Like, just make for a fucking weird scene, you know?
Yeah.
I hope the neighbors don't come by. I don't have to explain this to them.
Yeah. No, this was definitely a movie I watched because our TV's right in the living room and we're at street level here. This is a movie I watched during the day with the blinds down. You know, it's a small town. You know, they're just one of those things like, you know, like, I feel like a lot of things I could explain away, but I'm like, so I was walking by the American guy's house the other day and like he was watching, there's like a rock man like munching on a lady's tit. It's like, that's fucking weird. And then like 20 minutes later, I was walking by because I got back from the store and I was just walking back to my house and I saw again. I'm like, well, let's see how far it progressed. And then that same lady getting finger blasted by like some fucking like ninja looking motherfucker. Like, this guy just got a kid, didn't he? What the fuck's going on in that house? Like, okay.
Yeah, it definitely is that one.
It's Wednesday. Know. He's doing this on a fucking Wednesday. Shouldn't this motherfucker be at work? Oh, the kid's sleeping, and they just took this opportunity. You know, how do you explain that away?
Yeah, I got a podcast.
You got a podcast? Oh.
Yeah, no, it definitely was. It's like one of those ones. Like, it's also a movie too that you don't just show to anybody, but you can also use it as a break-in and be like to see if you really trust somebody. Be like, hey man, if you like this, you could be cool. Are you cool? You feel like fucking Matthew McConaughey in like Dazed and Confused. I don't know, man. Are you cool? You watch some fucking Ninja Scroll?
Be a lot cooler if you did.
Yeah.
This does seem like one of those movies. I want to do that now, but this does seem like one of those movies because you would do that kind of shit. You would always like, not to put you on blast, but you would be someone like if we have like if there's like somebody in the group had a new girlfriend or whatever. You're like, movie night, I'm going to put on the most fucked up thing I could fucking think of, you know? And then if you had access to this would have been on there at some point.
It would have been.
Do you like anime? Well, I like some Miyazaki movies. Oh, it ain't the same fucking thing, let me tell you that. But
it's just like Kiki's delivery service turned up to 21. Yeah, no, it definitely feels like it's one of those movies. Being like, being like, hey, little Billy over there, you're 12 years old. You want to be a man today? I'll show you be a fucking man. Slap this fucking VHS in, like, yeah, fucking jams it in.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing about it. Like, I didn't actually see this at the Jerk Off Johnny's house. This is just one of those legendary movies about it. Like, and when he would have showed, he was probably like, I would have been like 12 or 13, or the friend he showed it to was like 12 or 13. He was like 15. So it's just the idea of like, whoa, dude, like thinking about showing that to a kid at that age is like, holy shit, dude. Like, I just can't, like, it's one of those things, like, don't be wrong, I think there's some R-rated movies a kid at that age can handle, but I don't think this is one of, I think I would put this up there with, like, a Clockwork Orange as far as, like, wait till they're a little older. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a time and a place for it, for sure. No, I think it does fit into that one there, But it does remind me also of the one that, like, once one 14-year-old boy gets a hold of this, it's going to spread like fucking wildfire.
Oh, yeah, no, this is definitely, like, a grindhouse film just with the artistry, just top level, basically. I mean... Yeah. I do think the movie is, despite how, like, violent and how gratuitous it can be, it is a little bit of self-reflective to some extent, because it acknowledges the main lady, the poison lady. She regrets her position and how, like, she can't be more than what they've established her to be. And even to the point of, like, showing the remorse of, like, the townsfolk. And because I think a lot of things I've seen like this, they don't really even have that, but they show, like, remorse for the townsfolk that are dead from the plague and all that. Jubei doesn't just go, she's like, the part when it's revealed that, like, the only thing that could cure his poison is other poison. So her, and he doesn't do it out of respect to her, because he doesn't want her to feel obligated to do it. Where I think other things like, well, fuck yeah, let's fucking do it. Let's get a fucking sex scene out of this shit, And this is one where it's just like, no, we're not doing that. But even though I'm like, it kind of like, you feel bad for her because, she's like the only one out of the trio. Spoilers ahead, folks. She's the only one in the trio who doesn't make it. So it's just kind of like, I do wish another version she would have made it. Maybe they wouldn't have had to stay together, but she would have made it though,
Yeah. It's like, well, that's the thing is, like, they do it kind of like in, like, this is a one movie run, like, we're gonna make it feel like the stakes are real and everything like that, where if it was, even though I know there is that series that comes afterwards that you always said was like garbage.
Yeah, so here's the thing, like, I didn't really even know much. I just heard there's a series coming out, and I saw the whole set for like $20, and I was like, oh shit, yeah, it was all amped. And then, like, immediately when it started, like, all right, well, I guess I shouldn't expect, like, the same level of animation or character design from the first one. But it was just basically, I don't know, it was just very forgetful. It's not even, like, by itself, it was, like, the worst thing ever. It was really more of just kind of like, there's a lot of weight behind this name, and this is just, like, another generic anime series. I mean, I will say, I guess it kind of keeps into the themes with, like, some of the, like, trying to do shock value shit, but I mean, it wasn't as intense, wasn't as crazy as any of the shock value from this one, from the first one. And they actually, for a minute, they were trying to, because this is like, Ninja Scroll's kind of like Trigun, like, most of its audience is in America, so it has trouble getting by in Japan. They actually were trying to get an official Ninja Scroll 2 done, and they actually have, like, a trailer and, like, test footage for it. And it was like different art style, but animation was pretty good and pretty fluid. But it was like back in, like, I think 2012 or 2013, something like that. And then, like, it never materialized. They, like, put out like a little 3-minute trailer of Jubei fighting a couple of different characters, and they never happened.
Yeah, it's one of those ones too, and I feel like you can see where people would want it, but I do think the farther it sort of gets away from it, the harder it's going to kind of be. It's definitely one of those ones where it probably should have been made in at least the late 90s. Once you're kind of past that point, it's not that you couldn't still do it, but there's going to be definitely a disconnect, and probably the target audience, for it, is kind of a small pocket niche.
Well, I mean, it was. I want to say this was like even though it wasn't my big brother that showed it to me or nothing, but this was kind of like the big brother anime of that time, like that get the fuck out of my room, kind of like anime of that time, where I think that everyone like your tolerance shot up that much more once you saw this. Something for like gore and violence or animated gore and violence once you saw this, and I think it's just one of those movies that like I think that how do I put it like. I think that you could get people who are just into retro stuff and maybe it could have a second comeback. I think you could get people who just have an appreciation for like anime and film to kind of come back to this. But I think as far as the time to get like a proper sequel, I think that's really past. And I think I'm okay with just this one really good movie,
Sometimes it's just kind of nice when it's just, hey, it's one and done. That's it. You know what I mean? But yeah, it'd be always kind of cool. But like, I think it kind of stands pretty solid just as a singular movie. It's just super good. It's almost kind of like if you wanted to do. Now, it's not saying you couldn't do more Akira because, of course, the comic book's much longer than the actual movie is and whatnot like that. But it's almost like if someone's like, let's do an Akira 2, I
mean, sometimes they try and pull that off like years down the line of like, but yeah, I don't know what they would do for Akira. I mean, I never read the full long manga series of Akira, so I don't even know what I gotta read. I know some of the plot points that didn't make it into the movie, but yeah, I mean, it's kind of like I'm not saying it would be the same thing. I think this would probably go smoother, but it would be kind of like going back to like a conversation we had, like I don't know how long ago, but like Sin City 2. Like a movie wasn't bad, but it was just almost kind of like, you know what? I don't know. I just too little too late, I guess. And I think that something like this, I mean, I feel like a lot of it, not saying that not saying it doesn't warrant its own like success or it's not like good on its own, but I feel like a lot of this is like the kind of like vivid, smooth animation with that VHS kind of grain with that, I think a lot of that is that you had to be there for it kind of thing,
Yeah, I definitely think that's one of those ones. See, it's like I could watch this now, and for the fact that this is the first time I've seen it after knowing about it for so many years, and I could still be transported in that time machine because I just know what that feels like to be in that kind of era of those anime movies and so on, and that look. Because I still think that I know I brought this up on a couple podcasts back, but this movie is almost another one that explains like why I think the '90s is kind of the golden age pinnacle of animation, just as far as look and detail and design and all that stuff. I'm not necessarily saying it. Maybe obviously everybody's got their own favorite shows and so on, but there's always a few moments like in like decades where it's like, yeah, like everything's firing on all cylinders. It's top notch, and I feel Ninja Scroll really proves that. Like where you just go, yeah, look at this. It's literally like an art piece. Like people do not design things like this nowadays. Of that much detail and that much, especially with the traditional animation and so on like that. So I feel like just that in itself is really cool. It's one of those ones that'd be interesting to see how this kind of, it's not saying that someone nowadays couldn't watch it, not really enjoy it, because it's not like it's too behind the times or anything like that, or very like, oh, this feels like some weird like 68 movie that like, nobody really knows what's going on anymore, and they're having references in here that like do not make any sense. It's like, it's still just classic, Edo ninjas, fighting off, monster creatures and demons and all kinds of stuff like that. So, it's got all just that badassness to it.
Going off what you said about like, I think you could still watch this and enjoy it for being like, you didn't have to be there for it. But I think that it's also something to the effect of like the, how do I put it? Like, I feel like you could take like this same story and go a few like levels of animation down, and we wouldn't be talking about it as much. Like, oh yeah, it was this fun OVA that came out like in the '90s. It was alright. It was cool, But I think for how much level of artistry goes into the animation and the coloring and all that, like I think that is what makes it stand out so much, just for like how good the artwork and the artwork on it is on every level. I think that's really the thing that's kind of given this thing longevity, and I think that's part of the reason why the anime series didn't do. Well, the anime series is very lackluster. It was very just kind of whatever. But it also like it didn't. It wasn't this. It wasn't this. And I think really it's you got to come in at that same level. You know, you got to bring that same level you brought to this for it to like have really stand that test of time. It is interesting though, because once this did good, there was a couple of I'm not sure if it was the actual studio that did it or if it was like it was the actual animation studio or the dubbing studio. But like there was an anime that kept for ADV because the two big ones are manga and ADV. And manga and ADV put out one called Ninja Resurrection. And they try to almost market it like this was the sequel to Ninja Scroll, but it wasn't. Kind of like some real Bruce Lee, like Bruce Lee type shit, you know, like Chinese Connection 2 type shit, you know.
Yeah, I do kind of remember that, and they were really trying to sell it. They were like, "Hey, any way we can kind of get this and whatnot." And it's just that thing. They're just trying to use this because the name's so strong, and that guy, you know, just all the stuff he's kind of done. And I was even just kind of flipping through some of the lists, just seeing some of those ones. And there's a lot of those movies that I'm like, oh yeah, I just remember those from VHS trailers back in the day. You know, some of those ones you might not have seen, but you keep seeing that pop up here and there. They probably don't stand out to everybody else nowadays, but like they were for a time. But yeah, no, that's the thing is there is just some cool stuff about it. And it's one of those ones where I feel like you almost have to sort of see it to fully appreciate what it kind of is because, as I said, the story is kind of simple and so on like that. And even as we kind of talk about it, you know, you kind of be like, oh, it's got this cool character here and there's a fight scene and, you know, slashing and blood and guts and all that stuff. But it's like when you see it, it's more like one of those ones. It's a spectacle movie is really what it is. And you go, holy shit. Like, in a sense, you almost can't even be spoiled by it necessarily just because you wouldn't know until you actually truly saw it. But I think that's what makes it for why it would be such a great one for like the playground. Because as I said, if it was 1998 and, you know, you're standing out there and some kid was explaining to you this stuff and you'd be like, no way, that didn't happen or whatnot like that. Be like, well, you just haven't been experienced yet. You know, it's like your fucking Jimi Hendrix moment. Like once you see this.
There's no way. Wait. So like, oh yeah. So then like he rips the guy's arm off, and then he starts pouring the blood down his own mouth, and like looking at the girl, and the girl runs away. Then he fucking finds the girl. Like, oh, what the fuck? Yeah, you know. So it's like this, like that kind of thing where this is the one case where just that crazy fucked up movie that kid in the playground will tell you about. Like, oh, this is the real one. This is the actual. This is the unicorn. Going off just for a second, back off like the imitator. So apparently I didn't pull it up, so I'm going off of memory, but like, because the main character in this, I remember the guy, the jerk off Johnny that initially showed me, or didn't show me this, but showed me similar things. This was on his one of the. I think he had a big wall scroll of this actually in his room. When I think back on it, but like, it was like trying to think back on it. It was like Ninja Resurrection, because I remember that was like one you see on ADV, like ads for it. Like this one is gratuitous, and it's, you know, there's like, I guess you could definitely say there's some stuff like, oh, I wish that wasn't there, but it's not the worst thing. You know, it's not as bad as other things. I feel like in some ways this at least progresses the plot forward, that it's moving something, it's getting the point across one way or the other. Maybe there's another way to do it, but at the end of the day, I see why it's there. Mm-hmm. Ninja Resurrection, which is one I rented because when I saw Ninja Scroll finally, I'm like, oh, that was the sickest shit. I gotta see Ninja Resurrection now. Then I'm like partway in, I'm like, oh, this isn't. I was just able to process. Like, Jubei was a ninja. This guy's name's Jubei, but he's a samurai. That's not the same fucking no. This is just two guys named Jubei and it has ninja and they use the same type of font. You motherfuckers, you know. So I kind of got that. And then the thing about Ninja Resurrection, not to bring something down for the sake of it, but like Ninja Resurrection was actually even more gratuitous and more violent and more like had more like sexual assault and shit like that. But it like felt like just for the sake of shock value. Like it wasn't like as well made, wasn't as well good. It was just kind of like, are you pissed off yet? Are you offended yet? Are you uncomfortable yet? Where this one is just like, that's there to an extent, but I feel like it pushes the story forward. It's trying to tell you something with it. And so it's just kind of interesting that, I'm not sure if that was the studio's original intention, but definitely it was the dubbing company's intention to like make you think like, oh, we got in the Ninja Scroll sequel, wink.
Yeah, well, that's just what it sounds like. It also sounds like, yeah, they're like, it's that thing where they're trying to, top Ninja Scroll, and it's like they almost didn't understand that there is some heart and depth and all kinds of stuff that makes Ninja Scroll what it is, and that, violence is there not just for violence sake, but it adds to it and so on like that. Where sometimes people come in and that almost becomes, it sounds like that Ninja Resurrection becomes the Grindhouse, like almost knockoff film is what they're kind of going with, where they're just going, we're gonna up the ante and make it that much more extreme.
Well, it's like I can give you the short simple because I only rented the first V8, the first DVD. I didn't bother the second DVD. I was like, fuck this. It was basically, it was like during the whole like period of where Japan was going after like Christians, and the second coming of Christ was actually this Japanese dude who was leading all these Christians, and he was like a good guy. And then Jubei, not our Jubei, but this Jubei.
It's probably not even his name in like the normal version. That's probably just the dub thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like, well, his name is Kanagi. Like, no, it's Jubei. You call it Jubei. Just fucking write that shit in there. Cool, But like, he basically goes in. He has to bring in the guy who's basically the second coming of Christ or whatever, and then he's like, okay, I'll come with you, like peacefully and this and that. But then like, his right-hand man, who's actually a bad guy, went and killed 2 kids and like decapitated them and came back with their heads like, look what that motherfucker did to these kids. And then like all of a sudden, like he's like, oh, you pissed off bitch, you pissed off God. And he starts doing like Christian Shoto magic, which isn't like really which was kind of cool. He turns like a bunch of tiles, like connect together, make a dragon. He starts attacking them. And then he basically has to kill the second coming of Christ for a minute. And then he's just like, what do I do? Like, well, you hang out with Satan. I'm a Japanese dude who's really into Satan. Want to do that? Like, okay, cool. So basically, and then basically he has him fuck his daughter while he's bleeding out from his arms, and then like they got cut off. They got cut off in that fight, and he's just bleeding out. And then like his daughter later gives birth to like a bunch of other fucked up shit happens. But later his daughter gives birth to like Satan, but it's not even just like, oh, it just gives birth. He just basically like rips out of her, just like just like it was just like very like it just felt like, are you pissed off yet, Dad? Are you look at all the fucking violent cartoon I made? Are you mad yet? Like, it came across like that,
It just sounds like you just asked the 15-year-old kid, what he would make if he made an anime.
Yeah.
That's what it is. I pulled up Ninja Resurrection real quick on Wikipedia. I just wanted to see. And like the very first thing it says like on there is Ninja Resurrection is not a sequel to the anime film Ninja Scroll. We need to get that across first and foremost. It says despite being marketed as one outside of Japan.
Yeah. I mean, even I can see at a first glance, like the guy on there with the eye patch, like that could be Jubei, because he even has a similar headband. Because when he goes against his old homeboy, and he like basically headbutts him to death for a minute because he's wearing the band of the girl, like which we didn't even talk about that part. That was a cool way.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
the gold, all the gold in the ship melts, and basically he gets encased in the gold. He can't kill him. He can cut his head off. He can cut his arm off. He just reattaches himself, can't die. And the idea he gets encased in gold from melting and sinks to the bottom of the ship. But even the part where he's like just bashing his head in with his own skull for a minute, like, all right, that's pretty fucking metal.
Yeah, no, I know. We forgot about that because that ending scene actually is really cool. Where it's like, you got all these guys that are like, okay, we have our ninja army, and we got to load up this gold here. And I think the thing that makes me kind of laugh, there's like a scene where they show where it's just like it shows ninjas running at like high speed, like running up, loading gold onto like the ship, and then there's like other ninjas running down at high speed, and they're just like going on like an assembly line here of like which you think about like if you like the idea of running at high speed with like a bunch of gold over your shoulder sounds like next to impossible, but I just love how fast they were like loading this ship up and whatnot.
It's that Japanese work ethic.
Yeah, exactly. And like literally, Jubei's like, I'm gonna go out there and stop this gold and make sure that nobody gets any of it and whatnot. We'll burn this ship down and have it melt all over the dude.
They're gonna pay the Spanish for some of their weapons and then like take over the country.
Yeah, they're gonna get that Spanish weapons of mass destruction, 1800 style. Once again, it always goes back because I love how like in like the literally 16, 17, and 1800s, the Spanish are always like enemy number one of like any story. Literally, it took World War II to finally make somebody go, oh wait, there's somebody else there worse than the Spanish.
For them to go, oh, finally,
we're not gonna be the bad guy in every storyline.
Yeah, no, yeah, well, that's yeah, sorry, late here. But yeah, no, this I like this film. I really like it. It's a movie I wish I had on Blu-ray. I never got around to getting it. Just one of the reasons it kept on getting by me. But I really like this one. And
that was where I picked it up, and that's why I've wanted to watch this. So like, let's sit down and do it. I'm glad I finally got it.
I managed to find it on Internet Archive. I cannot find it streaming on anything over here, of course. So
no, I don't think it's an easy one to come across, actually.
Because manga is done, so it's whatever studio bought and felt like re-releasing things from manga. So,
but yeah, no, I'm glad we finally did sit down because it's something I've heard forever people talk about, and especially just you in general and so on like that. And you know, after all these years, it still delivers. It's not like one of those ones where it's like, who's so hyped up, man? Like, no, it's cool. It's an art piece. I don't think it's one of those ones like. I really enjoy it, and I really love the look of it and everything like that. It doesn't remind me of one of those movies where you'd be like, oh, man, I'm going to throw this on all the time. Like, I think it's just really cool, and I'd come back to it for sure later down the line, you know? But, yeah, no, I think it's more just a really, like, you should see this if you are really into, you know, anime, ninjas, martial arts type stuff, you know, and just kind of classic Japanese cinema. I think it's like one of those ones where it's like, oh no, it's definitely that kind. It is the, like, you know, are you experienced yet? You know, put this on like almost like your Mount Rushmore choices of just classic anime to see. You know, the same thing of like, you got to see Akira, you got to see Ghost in the Shell. They might not be your all-time favorites, but you should see them just for historical value.
Well, I think as far as American releases go, like I'm sure Japan probably has their own list, but as far as it was a big deal in America, like Akira, Ghost of the Shell, they were definitely on that like 90s OVA Mount Rushmore, you know, even though I don't think Akira is viewed as an OVA, but like you get what I mean though, like they were viewed as that like late 80s, early 90s Mount Rushmore of like anime movies for Americans, and this one definitely the case because it got its second life through America. So yeah, no, I'm glad I watched it. I haven't seen it in years. Like last time I saw this, I was in high school, and I really liked it. So I figured let's see if it holds up, and I'm glad to see it still held up.
Yeah, no, it was a fun watch, and yeah, if anybody else is kind of looking for it, you either have to kind of search out there a little bit to go find a copy of it. It's unlike other animes.
Internet Archives.
Internet Archives, though, which that's become one of my favorite places to find all kinds of like history and all sorts of stuff, old magazines, old comic books, like anything that you generally can't find anywhere else. Go to Internet Archives. Like, that's kind of the best way. Like, the nice thing, too, is that nobody seems to bother that place too often, I feel. You know? And I do think we are hopefully getting to a point where people kind of go, you know what? That's okay. Like some of these things, you know, if nobody's really making, like, any money off of them, like, they should be kind of, like, in a sense, there for the public to enjoy, you know? Because it's like that thing. It's like, I got no problem like buying stuff, but if there's like no way to do it and it's like does not exist, it's like, well, come on, guys. You know, you can't just like lock these things up and throw them in a chest and so on like that. But
oh yes, we can.
Yeah, somebody will, you know. But
my Mickey voice is fucked.
Yeah. but yeah, Ninja Scroll, very cool. Beyond all that good stuff, I'll put a link for Linktree in the description where you can check out all the other podcasts, comic books, and all the other fun stuff we've done over the years. Till then, I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
And I'm Ryan Zunigan.
And we'll see you some other time.
Later, folks.